And now, like, I learned that I'm a little bit more sensitive than I thought I was.
No. Thank you. Come here. I am that bitch. Thank you. Come up. Okay. I did it. I think I got my, yes I do. My fingers are freezing. I need to put on some lip gloss. This dry lip shit, ain't it? Hello. Thank you. Hello. Sorry, I was running late. I'm cold. My fingers are freezing. Okay, we inviting the Jen. Hey.
There we go. Hello.
What up, homie?
I was gonna be so cute, and then I didn't do that because I'm exhausted.
I was like, maybe Jen's gonna come and like do her makeup and
I
stuff,
was
and then I was like,
gonna like look and
it's okay.
like
You look beautiful anyway, so you already know. Okay, we're waiting for Britt. It's Jen. How was your day?
I'm trying, but when I read Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's why like I know you and I kind of chatted, and that's not on to where
Yeah.
I can't. So I will just, you know me, I'm like psychic message download. It looks like, hang on, do you want to record that? I the fuck I said? What are you talking about?
What the fuck? Hi, Sonia. Hi, everybody. We're waiting for my girl Britt to come on. See, I told you, Britt, Capricorn, always late. Always. Always. I love her, though. That's my homie. That's my homie. I was like, where are my questions at? I found them.
I printed them out a lot.
Yes, because you're a Capricorn. We're there. We're there.
It wasn't wrong. I just didn't have the energy. So I got up. I literally stayed up all the way until my son went to school, dropped him off at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
Total woman this morning, and I don't usually do this with Luke. I was just like, hey, you want me to take him? Because he was going to take him because I work all day. And so I was like, you want to take him? He's like, I can take him. I'm like, no, I got it. He's like, no, because you don't have to work all day. Like,
Yes. Yes. Waiting on food. Nice. I had a chimichanga that I ordered yesterday, right? And I saved it because I was like, it's fine. Like, I have all this food, right? And then I went to go eat it today, and quite literally, I ate an eighth of that. It was like, cool, I'm done. And that was all I had to eat today. That was it.
That's me when I work like Tuesdays and Thursdays all day, 12-hour day. I don't eat. I can't because I know some people get like the hiccups and all of that. I do during past lives, and then I just it's too much. So I intuitively know pretty much I'm gonna past life and not.
Yeah, I feel you. It was a weird day for me. It was a weird day. The energy since this morning, like I woke up and then I went back to sleep. I was wide awake at 5 o'clock in the morning though, which never happens. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? And then I fell asleep and I was on and off asleep. And then I slept past 9 o'clock and I was like, God damn it. And I called Kristen and I was like, you got to make me get up, bro. You got to help me with this because I can't deal. And so she helped me and I got up and I got ready and I came on live and it was a pretty poppin' ass live. I was like, okay. It's Friday. Y'all ready for this discussion? How was your day, Brett?
It was a day.
I
got my ass handed to me in a reading from Ruthie.
So I've been in my
field all day.
I don't remember any of that.
I cried.
I think it had something to do with your job.
Today.
I think it had something to do with your job. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
Well, at least she got consent from somebody because I've been dying to talk about her fucking job. So that's Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't make me cry again. I just stopped crying.
Are you in psychosis? And there's
Oh
First
my
of all,
God.
no, I got
No.
thank you, baby. I got a package from Jana, and I cried about it.
we are
We are not doing tarot. Actually, we're going to be talking about spiritual psychosis. So, I'm Ruthie. I'm a highly intuitive psychic medium, and these two lovely, beautiful women over here they have psychology backgrounds. So, for me myself, I wasn't necessarily comfortable about talking about this topic when I don't have a fucking background at all. I researched it a little bit, enough to have put together these questions. But I don't have a background in it, and I would love to learn more about it, especially from you two beautiful women. And I want you guys to introduce yourself, and then we'll get this party started.
Do you want to go, Jen? Do you want me to go? Do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. So hi, my name is Britt. I'm a practitioner. Besides that, I've had a psychology background going on almost 10 years. Nowhere in depth as much as Jen. I specialize in trauma and PTSD. My biggest thing when getting my degree was sexual assault trauma and PTSD within children. So yeah, that's me. I'm new to spirituality for sure. So I'm excited to see what Jen has to say.
Yes.
Because she terrifies me, so.
Get that. I'm Jen. I'm a licensed psychologist, so I can practice outside of the state. If you have a license, you understand the intensity. You can't just go on. I'm spicy today, Britt. Ruth.
I feel it.
Go online.
Hey, join the spice train. Yes.
Not a certificate type of thing. This is it's intensive. I think my bestie's on here. She's seen me study for that. It's intense. I have to re-up for mine, and I'm not looking forward to it because it's like literally, Luke, you sleep there now. I need hours to up this. So I have that. I also specialize in trauma. I have a double major in human profiling and human behavior, which is probably why Ruth chose me for this conversation, because there is some crossovers, and I'm sure Britt gets this. There's some crossovers where literally spiritual and energy are used in psychology. Okay. So there are some things that are gray areas, such as like I'll be diagnosed some form of schizophrenia, right? So there is kind of we're going to talk about the lines, but we are going to also back up some facts with I feel like with actual definitions of words are good.
Yes.
Debater. That's not what we're doing tonight, but I love debating. Oh, and I'm also like a psychic and shit. So I'm a certain.
I'm also a psychic and shit.
No one knew.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in for everyone who's joining. I'm Ruth. This is Jen. This is Britt. And we will be discussing psychosis, what that means. I know a lot of us on the TikTok streets be really like, there's so many people that throw around the word psychosis, but they definitely use spiritual psychosis. And in my little bit of research that I did, I have seen that there's a difference between like what psychosis means and what I did not retain the information, so don't come for me. That's what y'all are here for. Y'all are here for that.
That word not, and we have to, and Britt understands this. It's like the equivalent of a doctor coming out and saying, you have sort of sources.
Yes.
Like, cool. Like Luke and I was doing that, and I made him laugh because I did a dance with him. Like it was the dance for me. But anyway, psychosis is a disconnect from reality. So I just wanted to put that out there for the group so we understand. People are like, psychosis, it's a complete disconnect from reality.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I guess my number one question, right? What's the difference between a spiritual experience, right, and a hallucination?
Get it, Britt? I see your face.
No. So a lot of people get them misconstrued because there is a lot of similarities, right? So with psychosis, there's that break from reality. And a lot of people get them confused because you have that same kind of break with a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that I've noticed within my work in psychology and being here on TikTok, a lot of people that experience psychosis, they won't reach out, right? They almost hermit in. They don't want anyone to know that they're hearing these things, that they're talking to these things, or they're having these hallucinations. But spiritual experience or spiritual awakenings, they're wanting to reach out. They're wanting people to know because they feel almost like they have to save something or somebody.
Okay.
My favorite word, hallucination, evidence. One of my favorite words is evidence. So when you talk about a hallucination, you break that down. That means it's not real. So what's the difference between a spiritual awakening that is real, not real? Okay. So you're going to hear me say that a lot. But when you're talking about a spiritual experience, y'all know this about me, that I will use the word evidence until I'm blue in the face. You can provide evidence in past life. You can provide evidence, of course, evidential psychism. But there are moments in your awakening where, the misconception. So I have to go into that a little bit of psychism. So I have to go in a little bit of that. So that provides evidence, right? Mm-hmm. But what we do, like as spiritual workers, is we confirm your own intuition, right? So just stepping into that a little bit. Okay. The hallucination, there isn't going to be, it has different energy. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it is not real. Well, how do you quantify something you cannot see? With evidence, And so we could go off of that, but I'm going to stay on topic. But I think that's the only thing I wanted to add to that.
Okay. So a hallucination being something that you cannot provide evidence for.
That's how I see it. I don't know.
Okay. I like it. So in my little brief, whatever the hell it was, right? I felt like from what I had absorbed from it, a spiritual experience and a hallucination, right? Is exactly a mixture between exactly what the both of you said, which is really having the evidence between the spiritual experience, what I'm going through, right? What I am feeling. And I feel like that's what it is, right? Versus a hallucination, which is something you think you see, but you don't have any proof that you're seeing that at all. Right? Nobody else is seeing it. No one else can attest to that energy. Nobody else can really back that up. Versus a spiritual experience, when you go and you reach out to someone and you're like, I'm feeling this and this and this away. And then someone goes, you're absolutely valid in feeling that way. I feel this energy. Let's tap into it and see why.
Psychosis in general, they don't want help. And a lot of people who are in psychosis don't know. That's why I always say, like, they don't know they're in psychosis. I know I may be jumping ahead, babe, but like it's don't. Okay. It's like the thought of, as soon as somebody asks me, am I a narcissist? Why is the answer no if they ask it?
Yeah.
Ask it. You're not. So most of the time, the other thing about psychosis that people don't understand is the causes. So there's the mind, and I'm trying to equate it, because my brain wants to go,
yeah, like what can trigger psychosis? Let's talk about that.
Drug addiction, I need to be careful in here, but addiction is part of psychosis. And people don't understand that addiction is part of psychosis. Part of psychosis. A literal mental instability is part of psychosis. But it also can be a physical response to your body of detaching from pain. And people don't know that as well. So I think we think psychosis as just, obviously this is our spiritual community here. We think of it as just one note, but we have to look at all of it, right?
Yes.
Mental. We have to look at the fact that a big part of it comes from addiction. So we have to understand that.
Okay. So one question we just got is, can someone who is a medium fall into spiritual psychosis?
Yeah. Is that was a question?
Yeah, there was a question by Sonia.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
And then Lauren said, so it's kind of the idea if like you wouldn't wonder if you're crazy if you actually are.
Yes, it's that's everything. So I speak in definitives because it's how I speak, but
Yes.
right. But for the most part, yes. It's just
Okay.
like, am I a narcissist? No, because you asked, bitch. Like you're not. Knows narcissist, and I put that in there because people are obsessed with that word, and they
Yes.
everything is a narcissist. If I see one more meme about narcissist,
Right.
oh, lose it. Anyway, go ahead.
What are the symptoms of psychosis?
Agitation, being aggressive, for sure.
Okay, you just
For
described my
sure.
whole life. Cool.
I mean, it's literally everything. So from behavioral health all the way to speech. Like there's such a broad,
Yes.
there's such a broad, it's crazy. So like in order to have, I mean, this is just something that I believe in with my studies. In order to have spiritual psychosis, you have to have a deeper lining of like mental issues, behavioral health issues, trauma. It's not like, like you don't just like, you don't have anxiety or like you live a perfect kind of life in a sense.
Right.
And I say perfect because no one's perfect. And then you just fall into spiritual psychosis or just psychosis in general.
Okay.
Yes, psychosis also is an acceptance of trauma without working in it. So let me give you an example. Okay, so like something traumatic happens and I don't process it. It's fine, everything's fine. Let's gather together and hold hands and love and light. And it has that undertone as well. You're not dealing with your trauma, which is
we're not accepting the negativity.
You're not.
We're just kind of like
Yes.
moving forward, moving on, pushing past this. It didn't happen. That didn't happen.
Not
and
even
pushing forward.
It's not even like not accepting it. It's not realizing at all.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So they don't realize it at all as if it was trauma. They don't put it in. It's like there's no category in their brain to say this is trauma.
Yep.
Okay. I like that. So what's the difference between psychosis and a spiritual emergency?
I'm going to let you take that, Jen, because I'm not very big on spiritual. So I would much rather hear from her.
That's a good one. I'm trying to think of how I want to approach this.
Came with the heavy hitters. You feel me?
Yeah, because I just printed this out like a minute ago.
I have notes too. That's how you know we're both fucking Capricorns, is 100%. We both have notes.
Out, and I like just started like, because with you being intuitive, I told Luke, I'm just like looking in the air at me. I'm like, I'm just like literally clairvoyantly seeing the page and writing it down from the page.
Yeah.
I think with, I want to approach this. I think the same principles apply. So again, going on the psychosis versus spiritual emergency. I almost said awakening. Emergency. It don't. I get it. It's that principle of it doesn't exist rather than it does. So there's so I wanted to be careful how I worded that.
Right.
Like ignoring it versus seeking help is a big thing too. If you're going through like a spiritual emergency and you have that, then you're going to seek help. A psychosis, much like the beautiful Brit here said, you hermit, you deal with it. It's not like the psychosis. You don't think you need help either because you have all of the answers, which is also part of psychosis. You think you have all the answers. Why? Because what is psychosis? It's a disconnect from reality.
Okay.
Well,
what is a spiritual emergency? What is that term?
And again, I'm trying to pull on to say it the best way. A spiritual emergency, and again, it's kind of like there's a million different ways to answer this, but to me, that gut. It's almost like, okay, I'm going to start here. You're driving and like your spirit guide fucking pulls you over.
Okay.
like the cop, like, weird. You're like, oh shit. To me, it's kind of along those lines. Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay, cool. I love that. Spiritual awakening is accompanied by stable sense of self. Psychotic is opposite. Okay. Yeah. Sonia, I don't have time for you.
So I'm glad that she's in schizophrenia, because a lot of people that are in like that have the that have the what am I looking for? The term I'm looking for. My brain just went blank. The symptoms of psychosis. And actually there's a lot of people that get misdiagnosed for psychosis when they really have schizophrenia, and vice versa. Yes. Because the symptoms of both are so common and they like mirror each other. It's crazy. Yep. It's crazy.
Is toxic positivity a side effect of spiritual psychosis or part of it?
It can be. Yes. It all goes back to the mental.
Okay. So that all underlying. Can pathological lying be part of that psychosis too? And when we said the agitation, is it unprovoked agitation or unprovoked aggressiveness? Is that what that is?
So go ahead. Going back to toxic positivity, or what was your question? I'm sorry. So
if it was a side effect or part of psychosis.
You're talking about building. It's hard for me. It's hard for us to respond. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Britt. It's hard for me to respond because my mind immediately starts to race of like, because I can diagnose. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So for me, it's like there would have to be. It's like, what's the profile of the person? What's the person's like?
It depends on the person.
What is and again, I use profile. Like, what is their profile? Who they are? What is it? Because one case, that's why there's such a broad spectrum of it. One case, everybody's going to be different because we are all different, and that has to be applied here. So, can it be? Yes. Why? Because you got to go back to the definition of it, which is a disconnect from reality.
Right.
Definitely be a symptom.
Okay. I like that. I like how you explain it, where it's really just dependent on the person. All of these questions and all of these things that we perceive, like, yes, it totally can be a part of it, but it really depends on the person and their entirety, not just that one thing you're seeing, the entire picture.
Right. And I knew pretty was going to come up in relation to this. I knew that it was because it makes sense.
Yes. So if I think I have spiritual psychosis, should I go to a therapist or should I go to a spiritualist?
You need to go to a fucking psychologist, in my opinion.
There we go.
Because I bet you said that, because spiritual work, spiritualism, psychism, what we do is not a replacement for mental fucking health.
Okay.
So, period. So for psychosis, if you come out of that, which is one of the more difficult and has a low percentage, unfortunately, of coming out of a psychosis, especially kind of more of what we're talking about, because we're more leaning towards a spirit, like the spiritual psychosis, right? Right. Even things, it's very rare that you can come out of that, because literally it comes from a disconnect from reality. Like, I have had patients, we'll call them Bob and Susie. Bob and Susie, I know they're in psychosis. I've had, because of trauma, right? Like trauma and what I do and what I did, is even feeling like using my intuition in that and feeling they're going to find something. This person went, had the test results, okay, and still denied it. Even like there being something wrong, because bipolar is what it was, but the bipolar of the mind, you can see that. It can be diagnosed and see that in the brain. A lot of people don't know that.
Okay, so Tipsy Tarot made a good point. She said psychologists won't diagnose you as if you're in spiritual psychosis. They'll diagnose you as if you're in regular psychosis.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Correct.
And Jen can help me answer this. So yes, they will, but no, they won't. Some therapists, some psychologists specialize in spiritual wellness. So they use their psychology degree, but they use spirituality as a way to heal people from trauma, from PTSD, from their inner child. So yes, some will. That's not entirely correct or incorrect.
Okay. I like that.
By the way, the spiritualist says homie.
And then I want to answer a question that was missed. So when it comes to pathological lying, is that part of psychosis? It teeters a little bit, right? So yes, because they aren't aware of, they're not self-aware. They're not aware they're in psychosis. They're not aware that they have an issue. But at the same time, they feel like they need to keep up this pattern because they're constantly lying. But that also underlines with narcissism, because narcissists are pathological liars.
Okay.
So it teeters, I feel like.
Okay. What does psychosis and a spiritual awakening have in common? I know, heavy hitters. I know.
To me, what do they have in common? So to me, I'm going to answer it this way. So spiritual awakenings, there is self-awareness that you're fucked.
Okay.
So to me, to answer the question, there's awareness and then there's erratic behavior. So when you're asking what's in common, the emotions can be similar, but the actions are different.
I like that.
Okay. So the emotions are the same, but what's different is the action, the hermit, the like, and then we go into, and I think it's mutually exclusive to Britt's point about being a pathological liar. I feel like that's a whole different other can of worms. Can that be? Because, and not all narcissists, and that is, again, a gray area. That is true. A lot of them are, but I've had narcissists who are not. They're literally the opposite. They're cutthroat and don't care. So it literally goes one way or the other. You can be completely in that, but I have only diagnosed one narcissist because of the rarity of it, people.
Okay.
Less than 2%. Okay. And he was the opposite, Britt. He was very much like, I need you to explain to me how to get my woman to do what I want.
So let me ask you
very, very aggressive.
Do you believe that somebody can be not narcissistic but have narcissistic tendencies?
100. Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people get that confused because they're like, oh, he's a narcissist. Oh, they're gaslighting me. Oh, that they're just a shit person most of the time.
Do narcissists ever believe that they are actual narcissists, or do they always stay in denial?
Okay, so two questions I want to answer, or I want to respond to Kat. A narcissist will do anything to get what you want, what they want, and that summarizes it, period.
Okay.
By definition, she's absolutely right. Okay, and do narcissists ever believe they're actual? No, they don't.
Okay, and are they aware, or are they just oblivious?
Narcissistic tendencies, again, are different from a true narcissist, which less than 2%. You can look it up yourself. 2%, 2.2, something like that. They're not aware. They're not aware of it. It doesn't matter, because then you're getting into sociopath, like lack of empathy and emotion. So then again, that's why I'm like really.
Okay, so in relation to the not being aware, right? Because we've already said that one key distinction between a spiritual awakening and psychosis is that erratic sense of self.
Yes.
Right? So with all those things, what can psychosis be confused for? What can be mistaken for psychosis?
Oh, I can't do that. Laugh because he knows I can't do it.
What can be mistaken for it? And I feel like a lot of us, because when we go onto these TikTok streets and we see all these people and we're looking at all these readers, I bet you 1,000% a lot of us have seen some erratic crap. A lot of erratic things. And so how do I discern, right, from someone? And it's not to diagnose anyone or to sit here and say, hey, yo, you're in psychosis, gotta go. Like, no, it's not for that. It's more like, how do I discern the difference between myself, right, and what I'm going through and the things that I'm doing and someone else? how do I not know like that this is something that I might be doing and I'm not aware of it? Because right, psychosis, we're not aware.
Right. And that's somebody said that's a loaded question. It is. It goes back to a narcissist not admitting that they're a narcissist or admitting. So I feel like if you're even contemplating the thought, and Britt can correct me or add on, like if you're even contemplating the thought of it, then that's your answer. But I think I know where you're going, where you're just doing it. You know, there is an awareness that there is trauma, but you got kind of go into this trance-like state where and I've seen psychosis with big in my research, and it's not mutually exclusive, of being pathological liars.
Yes.
This psychosis, you completely disconnect for reality. Like literally, my spiritual as with my spiritual work, when I know somebody's in psychosis, they're holding a teddy bear. Like that's what I was given. It's like they're holding a teddy bear. You know what I mean?
Right.
Connect and that comfort. You seek comfort in whatever because you're not getting better.
Okay.
From reality, so you're not getting better. So with that, you build almost a fantasy world around that.
Okay.
You build a fantasy house around that notion, and and you are aware. I think someone asked, like, are you aware you're lying? You're goddamn fucking right. If we're just talking about psychosis, that you know you're a fucking liar. Without
okay.
question.
In psychosis, you are aware that you are lying.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. I think that you are lying. Again, I speak definitives. Nobody come after me.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Britt.
Question really quick. So, Microblading by Aaron asked, would you say someone who is the star of their own show, Constant Lies, they believe is a narcissist? So, hi, my name is Britt. I have histrionic personality disorder. One of the main traits is being the center of attention. Am I a narcissist? No. Do I lie and believe what I'm saying in my own lies? No. Why? Because I see a psychologist once a week and work on myself, and I'm very self-aware of my mental disorders. Those who refuse to work on themselves and deal with their mental bullshit, their trauma, their PTSD, and they have disorders where they feel like they need to be the center of attention, are they more than likely a narcissist or have narcissistic tendencies? Absolutely. Because they have to put on this facade that they're perfect because they want everyone's attention. So I'm just going to answer that for you.
I love that.
There you go.
So and we kind of answered the question for me where it's like, can you be in psychosis and be aware? And we've already said yes to that. I think one of my questions is going to be too, where it's like, when it comes to psychosis, right? When it comes to psychosis is something I personally like see, right? And I kind of question. So this is for me, right? When you see someone attributing constant like spiritual attributes to everything, and you kind of know, right? You're like, I mean, that's kind of life, but like, sure, whatever. Would that be spiritual psychosis? Would that be like an effect or like a side effect or a sign? Would that be a sign of like spiritual psychosis, that they're just attributing everything? I mean, even normal shit to.
Sometimes it's just dust, bitch. And that's my saying with that. It's not normal. Sometimes you got dust. Yes. I think absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. And I still go back to one of my favorite things to say, talking about spiritual psychosis. Where is the fucking evidence? I'm sorry, but where is the evidence?
Understood. Okay. Let's talk about.
Like, if I get a read, I already know what the fuck you're going to say because, like Britt said, I have a mentor and I have a fucking psychologist because I ain't no stupid bitch. So,
and like, for a second, let's like say therapy is not bad. Like, there's this huge thing that like, if you see a therapist, like your mental case and you're a bad person, no. Mm-hmm. No. There's people that don't have mental issues that see a therapist or a psychologist on the regular because they care about their mental health.
Because I have to test, I don't have any abnormality, like my brain waves are very clean. But I don't all the time, but I do when I need to. And right now I'm in a time where I need to. Like I need to press past something that's been haunting me. I'm very open, very, very open about my experience, but I'm in the process of overcoming this last obstacle that I need to overcome, deep rooted in me. And that's my need. My fear of failure is greater than my succeed. And we're working on changing that dynamic because I've always operated out of a fear of failure instead of my need or want to succeed. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm just kind of veering off a little bit to your point that you don't like this mentality or thought, or how many times, Britt, have you heard, well, I saw this therapist when I was, so screw all therapists. Same.
You need to interview your therapist as if you were interviewing your job. Okay. So
Right.
Personally, I'm 30 years old. I've been through over 25 psychologists and therapists because some of them, and it's so fucking fortunate, some of them want to check a box, put you on medicine, and send you on your way. And it's very, very unfortunate, but you have to literally, if they don't fit you, bye.
I personally, I was one of those people for a very, very long time, right? And this is just speaking from a colored woman's perspective, because a lot of us, when it comes to psychologists or therapists, they just want to check a box for us and throw us away. But I honestly, when I went through my spiritual awakening and all that bullshit that I had to go through, right? I found a therapist, and it's funny that we're sitting here and we're talking about it because I'm like, oh, I was aware that my anxiety was fucking crazy high. I was aware that like I wasn't unable to speak. I was aware about how depressed I was. All of that was weighing on me. And I was like, I need to see someone. I need help. And so when I did seek out a therapist and I did seek out someone to speak to, I mean, she has changed my life. Even we talk like 5 minutes every week, and even those 5 minutes is still helpful because it's like, okay, you still have someone here that I'm able to speak to, that I'm able to talk to and be able to be like this is some fucking shitty ass week, or this is a great week, and this is it, and it's wonderful, and I don't really have anything to talk about this week. And she's like, okay, cool, no problem, we'll talk next week. And it's a blessing that I've met her and that she was put on my path, because she literally is just like perfect for me. Like it was just divinely, of course, everything like divine. But
I'm sorry, Britt. I'm sorry, Ruth.
It's okay. But for me, it was kind of that one experience versus my whole life experience of being afraid of therapy and being afraid to speak to someone and being afraid. That one experience changed my whole outlook on therapy.
Yep. One thing I want to touch upon, and she said, Serenity, she said, she's a counselor. You are your best advocate. And I say it all the time because I get it all the time of like, you saved my life. I haven't saved a single motherfucking person except for my fucking self. You are your best advocate. What we do is we provide the tools and then we teach you how to use them. And also just quick, a psychologist and a psychiatrist, there was something about that. A psychiatrist can diagnose, or a psychiatrist gives medication. I cannot do that. My mom unalived herself with that, and don't even get me into pain management doctors. We're not going to go there. But I became a psychologist because I wanted to save myself. And my psychologist is a 33, 22/9. So
love that.
It's over. Like
Yeah.
I sit there, and it would have to be that for me. So to Britt's point, just real quick, you've got to interview. I mean, I don't give a fuck. The deeper you go, the more excited I get. The more questions you ask me, the more excited I get. Because I'm like, okay, you serious? You got a list? I mean, I've had a whole book of questions. Like literally in the first session, it's just like, okay, I'll get back to you. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like it's an interview. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But sometimes, it does happen where it's like either I say or the person says, I don't think it's a good fit. And we kind of have that, you know what, you're right, but let me recommend. ego. In
I love when they do that, when they recommend.
Yeah.
They love that, because there's a lot of, like, in my experience with my HPD, there's a lot of psychologists that will not work with someone who has HPD because they're not trained in it. And so they'll pass me along, or they'll try to give me whatever the case may be. So I love when they're like, here, I can't do this, but here's a list of recommendations, because as someone with anxiety and true Capricorn, I'm like, hey, I don't have to do this footwork. This is nice. Thank you.
So
Elise,
Lauren asked.
Elise, if you want to message me, I've got plenty of resources depending on the state that I can refer you to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Lauren asks, are there possible warning signs or things to avoid for spiritual psychosis? Like, can you prevent yourself from slipping into it?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Well, I'm thinking about different cases that I've had where I feel like the person was on the brink, like the brink of psychosis. But the main difference is how you catch yourself is by not permitting and reaching out. So even though I can see that, and there's almost a disconnect from reality, that's what it is, and their body, they're still there. So I feel like she asked like some of the symptoms. I mean, it's all, withdrawal, being out of touch with reality. Like, there are symptoms, and it's not, you don't just slip into it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of things that happen prior to that. But the thing that I've seen, even though there's multiple different ways that's tied with psychosis, is trauma. In my personal opinion, that's the number one thing, is trauma. Trauma is because you're tired and you don't want to deal with it. So you create alternate or space or reality to disconnect into. What's really hard about people in psychosis is there is still trauma. It has a very high unaliving rate, which makes my heart and my nine sad. It makes me so sad that that's the case, because at some point you can't take the reality of which you've created, because that crumbles, right? And then you may try to create another reality, or it could be I've had people in therapy like that it comes crashing down. I feel like it's not easy to get out of, but it's easier to get out of than a narcissist, with no empathy, none of that.
Okay. I like that. I really, really am so excited for this discussion. I've been excited for it like all week, straight up. I've been super excited for it, but it's because there's so much misinformation out there, and everyone likes to speak on psychosis but doesn't have the background to do so. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really, really happy to be able to have brought you two on with your backgrounds and be able to speak on this more broadly and answer people's questions, because everyone loves to talk about it but don't know what it is. I know for me, for example, avoiding the human experience as well, the most spiritual thing we can be is human.
Hello, bestie.
My mother, Sarah with the bomb.
I literally wrote that on here, a slight variation of that, and I was like, I'm missing something. Here comes spirit evidence.
So to sum it up, we are talking about spiritual psychosis. And what that actually is. So one key distinction between a spiritual awakening and spiritual psychosis, because I wrote it down. Hello. Hi. is that a spiritual awakening is accompanied by a stable sense of self, whereas a psychotic episode is the opposite and is usually accompanied by an erratic sense of self.
I wrote self-awareness and erratic sense of self. That's exactly what I wrote, just to surmise. I mean, I didn't take it from right?
Listen, I took it from Google. Thank you. Thank you. It helps. Google helps. I'm just saying. It also can be a red flag when you stop questioning your belief systems and experiences. I like that. Okay.
Stop it with your fancy words.
So when it comes to someone who is in psychosis, can you tell them that they're in psychosis, or is this something that they have to be aware of? They have to realize on their own?
Let's get into it. So half of psychology is not giving the answer ever. I know 95% of the time exactly how you're fucked up as soon as you step into my office, right? I'm like, cool, I know what it is.
Okay.
That was me saying, hey, Britt, you're in spiritual psychosis. There's the answer. Gonna help anything. So a big part of whatever the issue may be in regards to therapist, psychologist is asking the question so they can come up with the answer. So the best way I can answer your question is to get them to realize, and I am a tricky bitch. I have really read the definition of something that I know somebody intuitively doesn't want to face, and I'll say, hey, do you do this? Yes. Do you do this? Do you do that? Okay, cool. When the time is right, cool, you're in psychosis. No, I'm not. But you just said every single thing, and I'm going to email you this link so you can see.
Right.
You are. But that comes with timing. So you can't you gotta ask the right questions. So the person, because what's the point? If I just say, hey, I'll pick on you because I just picked up Britt. Hey, Ruth, you're angry and you're mad, and you already know that. It's the same thing when we read.
Right.
And tuition, and I'm like, hey, are you heartbroken? Good job, bitch. They know they're heartbroken. Like,
So psychosis, I feel like it's like kind of like a hand trick, right? Like a magician almost. So you lure them in, right? And you ask them questions that make them ask them questions about themselves. Because we don't want to go, like Jen said, they walk in, oh, you're in psychosis. That did no fucking help for them at all. We want them to come and be self-aware that they're having this issue. So it really is like a hand trick, or a trick of the hand almost.
So once you are aware that you are in psychosis, is that like the first step to not being in psychosis?
They always say, basic bitch, psychology 101 is the first is admitting that you have a problem.
Okay.
Right? So if we're going back to the basics, and there's a lot of good basics in there, but like admitting having the realization, you have to be really good as a therapist to know. I always say I will push you to the cliff once we have the agreement. You feel good. I feel good that you're the right person. I'll push you to the cliff, but I won't let you. I'll grab you back. So I'm always trying to push the limitations of that. So you want to push, but you also want to side note, you want to recognize progression too in that. So when something happens, the impact of whatever it may be, the syndrome, the diagnosis, or whatever it may be, there better be some, because I won't diagnose you until like 6 sessions in, 4 sessions in. I will not do it because I want to be extreme, because you'll carry that. And then like notes and whatnot. So like if you want to go to see another psychologist, whatever, counselor, I want to make sure they have good notes as to why, with fact-based information, right?
Yes.
I won't diagnose you until 4 or 6 weeks in, until it gets to the point where I feel very comfortable that, and you have to fit, just, it's a rule. You have to fit 90% of that thing. 90% symptoms you have to hit. So you have to take apart that of what are the symptoms. Okay. Think of like a doctor and you're sick, and this is the frustrating part that I see, and it kind of a little bit goes in with psychosis, is your leg is cut off and I'm giving you Vicodin. I don't feel pain.
Right.
Prosthetic leg. Like, that's not the problem.
You're still missing a fucking leg.
I'm still missing the leg.
I don't have a leg.
Okay.
So
okay.
Question, but like.
No, it totally did. It did, because the first step is literally being self-aware. So it's not going to knock off that, like I'm not.
No. It is one of the most difficult moments when you.
Okay, so when you so let me break it down even more. When you get to that self-actualization, self-realization space of the fact that you are in psychosis, would you kind of equate that to being in a spiritual awakening at that point?
Oh, that's a good question, Ruth.
I try.
That's a really good question. I don't think they're mutually.
I would say no.
I would say no. Like, it's
Okay.
not.
Someone who's in an awakening is already self-aware.
Okay.
They're already comfortable with themselves and like being aware.
Okay.
Yes.
So a loss, Lauren said, a loss of your sense of self is a symptom of ego work as well. So how do you tell the difference?
Say that again.
A loss of your sense of self is a symptom of ego work as well. How do you tell the difference?
Because the parts that need to go away, that's the difference. Like, let me read that again. How do we become self-aware if the very lack of causing? Hang on, let me see how Lauren worded it. But like, it isn't to figure you out; it's to help you. Yes. Where did you see that question?
It's all the way up. It's all the way up top. I got you. Yes, I will find it. A loss of your sense of self is a symptom of ego work as well. How do you tell the difference? Because when we say a psychotic episode, right, it's usually accompanied by an erratic sense of self. So how do you tell the difference between the erratic sense of self and that loss of your sense of self due to ego work?
I don't like the loss of sense of self in regards to ego work.
So I don't know much about spirituality. Like I said, I'm still new to it, but don't roll your eyes at me. I saw that. But I feel like people that are self-aware and they're going through their spiritual journey, they're aware that they have to lose that ego. Compared to psychosis, you are not aware.
Worded, I'm like, that's
so how do you become aware, right? In psychosis, if that is exactly what you're fighting, is that erratic sense of like self. How do you become aware? And is that where I guess that is where the psychologist would come in and step in. But is that something you can accomplish on your own?
No.
Coming out of spiritual coming out of psychosis?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No. And I don't think that people don't have the ability, but they're not aware that they're even in psychosis to begin with.
And what you will see too is I've seen psychosis community. So you have somebody in psychosis. Think about it for a second. We're talking about spiritual psychosis. Somebody's in psychosis and they don't want to do the work. And then all of a sudden a community is formed. And that's very difficult to break through. Because anything that goes against that illusion is wrong. Britt, did you say, are we taking off our glasses now? Like, I don't.
You've seen this. You've seen it
multiple times. Yes.
You've seen this right before your eyes. When you have a band of people that are supporting someone who's in spiritual psychosis, it's almost like Red Rover. So
do the other people that are supporting that spiritual psychosis, do they then fall into psychosis as well? So we just got a band of psychosis?
Yes, because we don't want to work because we don't want to put in the fucking work.
Because for people, it is much easier. It is much easier for people to put on a facade about who they are, what they do, what they're about, than coming up with their own self-awareness of like, hey, I did shitty things. I might be a shitty person. And I need to work on it, okay? So being a shitty person, you can work on that. Knowing that you're a shitty person and you do shitty things, you can work on that because you're self-aware that you're a shitty person doing shitty things. When you're not aware, you don't work on it because you're not aware.
Right.
And then those around you, like, suck them in like a succubus almost.
Okay. So how will the other people, like, what if the other people don't know what psychosis is and they just they're like, I don't know that this person's in psychosis.
How I feel like a psychosis is broken is exactly what I said. Something intrudes on the community with actual people who are woke, like, and pulling out. And what I've seen in the structural, like the psychosis community, right? You have a whole bunch of people that found each other because they didn't want to put in the work and they fall in psychosis, right? Mm-hmm. So what I have seen is if one person runs from the compound, it breaks. If one person runs from the compound, generally causes a disruption. It's almost a trickle effect after that. Options. We can either try to rebuild and ignore, try to do that, but it's difficult to rebuild on that. And also with psychosis in general, there's a need to prove oneself. We didn't talk about that, so I'm going to mention that.
Yes.
Prove oneself. And really, you're just chasing. You can't sage yourself, bitch. Like, I always say that. You cannot sage yourself. You can't live with yourself. So what do?
I understand that. Elise said, are people who are in cults in spiritual psychosis?
Can be.
Mm.
You have to think, Britt, I'm with you on your face, but you have to think of like different types of people. Like,
yes.
She said, can you? Yes. Exclusively? No. But yes.
Okay. Erin said, what's a short way of explaining? Huh?
What's the definition of cult?
Ooh.
You've got to go back. That's all you do is look up fucking definition. Like, that's half of the test. Luke knows.
Okay. What is a short way of explaining what spiritual psychosis symptoms are? Like, are there red flags?
Say that again.
Are there red flags? What is a short definition? What's a short way of defining what the symptoms of spiritual psychosis are? Like, what are the red flags to be like, they might be?
It's hard. Ruth, can you answer this and not Britt? Because I'm going to answer it from a psychologist perspective of how I know. And your, I think, would be more relevant. Does that make sense? Like, yeah.
Yes. You see this a lot in churches, no shade.
Agreed. Churches. Definition is a cult, by the way. Look up the word and then come back.
Dad. So what I feel when it comes to like, are there red flags to spiritual psychosis, right? I'm sorry, I'm gonna put it out there. Toxic positivity, number one. That's the number one thing. If you cannot sit here and say, I am having a bad day without someone saying, well, look on the bright side, there's a problem. There's a problem. And that's just a huge, that's like one of my number one red flags. If I were to go to somebody that I knew, let's say like a friend, and I knew you, and they're like, oh, but just look on the positive side of things, and I'm sitting here fucking bawling my eyes out. No, I'm not looking on the positive sides of things.
I have never doing that day in her life. I just
imagine. I'm just like,
do you believe spiritual psychosis is a medical diagnosis? It can be. We were talking about that earlier, Sarah. I wanted to answer that. We were talking about that is it can come from, it absolutely can be, because it can be a disturbance that you can see of the mind. And also it comes, big psychosis comes from addiction. And a lot of people don't know that. It comes from addictive behavior. Yes.
I love that. I do. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop them. I feel like, what are other red flags though? What would you consider a red flag besides toxic positivity?
When somebody is presented with absolute logic and then they completely don't address it and you're like blocked and there's no absolute no, and it's absolutely logic proven, factual. I was a debater too. So it's like they're hit with reality, undeniable reality. Okay. Textbook reality.
Hit with undeniable reality, and they're like, I didn't say anything. I didn't hear anything.
And they act like you don't exist. Delusion. That's a
okay.
So, guys, I wanted to kind of see what you were going. I was trying to get out of my kind of like vibe and not come at it from a psychologist point of view, but like, somebody who doesn't have that degree, how would you know? It's a complete lack or even addressing awareness. And it does go along with toxic positivity, right? Not addressing it, right? So I'm not gonna, we are just going to give love and light. I don't know why my voice is still, we are just going to give love and light to those people, and we're just going to send them love.
So
even denying the fact that it affected you anyway, psychosis.
Right. So when going back to like when someone is in psychosis, they can create this whole group of people who are also in psychosis. I feel like when it comes to the toxic positivity and that love and light scenario, how do we how do we like discern or use or like do this for ourselves, right? How do we sit here and go, no, this is wrong? What is it that we are supposed, like, not supposed to, but
Like,
how do we come to that realization?
I'm in the psychosis, like I'm in the like I'm
yes.
I've seen multiple different ways, and we would have to bring in the spiritual part. Like, one of the people that got out of psychosis was because, you know, their mom, who was a therapist, yanked them out. Reality set in. And something that they wanted was threatened. Therefore, the reality and illusion is broken. Something they wanted, I'm trying to be careful here, TikTok, but something that was that in their fantasy that they couldn't lose was taken away. And therefore that's now
understood.
So
okay. So Amber said, would repeating the same unhealthy patterns be a sign
of psychosis?
Yes.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It could be an underlying sign of needing to be diagnosed with a mental or behavioral disorder. And then moving forward, like if you have a mental disorder, you know about it, and you continue to go on those same patterns of destruction, that can lead you to psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
But don't know that you don't have these issues.
Mm-hmm.
Sad, and I'm sorry my nine's coming out. What's really sad is a lot of people who are in psychosis have had a tremendous, and it breaks my heart, amount of trauma.
Yeah.
Back to that, they've had so much pain. Not always, but trauma is a big reason why somebody would go into psychosis. Why would you need to have an let's think logically. Why would you have to have an alternate universe of your life otherwise?
Mm-hmm.
So let me paint this picture for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get really personal for a second because I feel like that's just being authentic. I have two siblings that are in active addiction, okay? Very heavily active addiction. One is very self-aware of her addiction, knows that they need help, knows that they have mental disorders that they're working through, and continues to work on herself and her addiction with her mental disorders, okay? Then I have another one who is in active addiction, has no idea that their actions of this addiction is causing them to not understand or deal with the fact that they have these, mental disorders. And so they continue on this path, which continues onto this path of creating this reality that they don't actually live in.
Right.
And so that's the difference, right? And I bring in their addiction because, like Jen said numerous times, addiction really is a huge point of getting into psychosis.
Mm-hmm. Psychosis, like what would they say? They would, if their psychosis does not, somebody in psychosis would not talk about traumatic events. That's the point. I'm in psychosis, bitch. Not you. So I'm not going to, and that wasn't directed to funny. But you would avoid trauma, toxic positivity that Ruth keeps mentioning. It'll be okay. Like, somebody want to help you solve, and you want to know why they don't help. You want to know why toxic positivity is tied to psychosis? Because that would open up the fucking. It's like, here it comes. That would open up that flood work of having to even talk or face it. So it's like, okay, connect again from reality. We're gonna just toxic positivity all over that. Sprinkle some shit. I literally equate this. Y'all are gonna hate me, but I equate this to when somebody relieves their bowels and you spray like the air freshener in the air. It still smells like poop. I'm just saying.
Right. So Molly actually said something really interesting, and she said, I think it's a belief of what you feel is psychosis that boils down to what is right and wrong.
I'm going to disagree with that.
So as we mentioned earlier, right? Psychosis is an actual diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And what psychosis is literally, it's usually accompanied by an erratic sense of self, and you're just not stable in that. You are unaware. You're not aware of what you're doing. You're not aware of of the bubble life that you created, and that it is not tied to reality. That is what psychosis is. So I can disagree as well with that based off of this discussion and what we're saying, because psychosis is an actual term. It's an actual thing.
Yes, but I appreciate the conversation and the dialogue. I just want to make
Yes.
clear we can
Totally.
Yeah, we can totally not. This is how we grow. We learn things from each other. So I just wanted to put that. People can get help till they're ready with addiction and mental health. Yes, but what we're talking about, Moon Angel, what we're talking about is when you're in psychosis, you don't.
Could psychosis be confused with just someone's personality? I like that question.
Could psychosis be confused with someone's personality? No. That's just how they are? No.
What about people who argue that psychosis is a social construct and they're actually enlightened?
That's because they're in psychosis.
That's because they're full of shit.
Who says?
It's because they're in psychosis. Okay.
When you go to someone that, like, especially on TikTok, right? You're in spirituality TikTok, right? You're watching all these videos and someone pops up and they're like, I'm not in psychosis, like, love and light, I'm enlightened, you're wrong, I have a degree. Okay, well, where's the evidence for all this shit, right? You can tell me you have a degree, that you're doing these psychological coaching, that you run this business, until you're blue in the fucking face. But until I see this, I'm not going to believe shit you're saying.
Right. Amber asked a really interesting question too. Can someone finally, like, talking about their trauma and unloading trauma, can that cause psychosis?
We're getting trauma bond, which, by the way, trauma bonds are a psychology term as well. And a lot of people think that's a spiritual term. No, that's a psychology trauma bond.
Nice.
And it's not cute to have a trauma bond. I've noticed that it's like people, it's like a trendy thing. People think it's cool. It's not. It's like terrible. And that is part of being self-aware and, like, working on yourself, and as, like, working through that trauma bond that you have with that person.
There's no doubt that you can heal from psychosis. We were saying that earlier for all the latecomers coming in with that, right? It's more about...
Oh, go ahead.
It's more about really seeing, we're laying out everything, right? We're laying it all out there and we're saying, this is what psychosis actually means. This is what spiritual psychosis actually means. And this is what you can look out for, right? Because there's a lot of spiritual psychosis being thrown out on the streets, but nobody is actually really qualified to talk about it, qualified to diagnose it, qualified or even have the backgrounds, which is why I brought on this topic and conversation, because these two beautiful women have the background in psychology. I don't have a background, right? I just wanted to sit here and really bring this conversation up because I was confused about spiritual psychosis. I was confused about what that meant. And I wanted to really find out. And I know that if I felt that way, there was a bunch of other people who did too. There's something that Molly said that I want to address.
I'm helping comment because I wanted to address it. I just don't agree with shaming someone for being love and light. It's too. Is that the one you're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't feel like...
Right. We're not shaming anyone for being love and light, and we're not encouraging anyone to shame them.
You can be love and light and have duality. They're not mutually exclusive. So love and light is cool. Like that's a vibe. That's not a problem if you're love and light. And I respect different people's belief systems. But what we're talking about is a complete unawareness. So therefore there is no duality. And that's how I choose to answer that.
Right. So that's a beautiful way to address that. Because with toxic positivity, there is no duality. It is all that. It is not, I am also going through these things, these negative things in my life. This is what I'm going to address. It is toxic. And the reason that it is labeled toxic positivity, because I actually did do research on this and retain the information. The thing about toxic positivity, it is literally denouncing your negative experiences and acting as if they didn't happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Molly, and I just wanted to make sure that, and it's funny because we were both right there. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I wanted to make it clear. I personally am not trying to shame anyone's belief or what they want in their journey at all. But when you have somebody like, when I go to a friend and they're like, hey, I'm having a bad day, like, these are my traumas I'm dealing with, I'm like, hey, bitch, me too. Let's talk about it. Let's have this back and forth conversation of how we can better this, compared to somebody, like Ruth said earlier, that's like, oh, well, look at these positive things. And it's not that I don't want my friend to look at the positive things. I want them to know, like, hey, they're not going through this trauma alone. But people that are in that psychosis or spiritual psychosis, they don't want to deal with that other person's trauma, because then it's like a mirror. Then it's a reflection of the trauma that they have to deal with, and they don't want that shit. So they're out. That's the difference.
Is there a difference in a psychotic break and being in psychosis? I'm gonna write all y'all questions down. I see y'all. I got you. Okay, I got y'all right now.
Psychotic break and psychosis. A psychotic break, again, psychosis is a detachment of reality.
Okay, perfect. Can remembering trauma cause psychosis?
Yeah.
Or do we even need to remember to heal?
You need to remember.
Can it cause? It can cause.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not exclusive just to psychosis by remembering, because people have PTSD, and so it's dealing with that as well. It's like a trickle effect. So you remember your trauma, you're going down, you have PTSD, you're dealing with that. And then by ignoring all of these, then comes the psychosis, right?
Right. Are psychotic breaks and mental breakdowns the same?
People keep asking about trauma bonds, so I want to address
that.
Yes,
I'm trying to get through all the psychosis questions first, and then go through the next topic. Oh, so yes, whatever the hell question I just asked.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
Are psychotic breaks and mental breakdowns the same?
No. Wait, say that again?
A psychotic break and a mental breakdown, are they the same?
So let me ask you this, Jen. Do you feel like a psychotic break is entering psychosis?
No.
Well, do you feel it can be?
Well, okay.
Again, it's a loaded question.
I know. Like, again, that's veering off.
Okay.
Like, they have like their cousins. Like
they're cousins. Okay, so they're not the same. They're not the same, but very, very similar.
They're similar.
Okay. Do you think psychosis is a part of the cycle of spirituality?
Yeah. It can be. It can be.
Okay.
We've seen it in the TikTok streets. Do I think that one denotes another? No. Like you go through psychosis for an awakening? No. I don't know if that.
Okay. So psychosis being a part of like the cycle is because we all technically go through this kind of period of like, damn, am I crazy?
Yeah.
Okay. Evidence. Now we can explain what a trauma bond is.
Evidence. Sorry. Trauma bonds. How are trauma bonds created? Trauma bonds are good, honey. Because like the question stopped. Gotcha. Like stopped, and so
I'm gonna head out if that's the case.
Trauma bonds. Are you ready, Ruth?
I'm ready.
Yes, time. Hi, Ruth. I want to tell you about every single bad thing that's ever happened to me, ever. And then Ruth's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to tell you about every bad thing that's ever happened to me."
Let's talk for 8 fucking hours.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about our trauma. And I'm not making fun of the disorder. I'm just trying to lighten the mood because this is heavy. It's heavy. It's a serious thing, and I understand that. But trauma bond. So that's how the bond goes, and then there's toxicity that comes with the trauma bond, right? Mm-hmm. So the behavior, the reason why a trauma bond or how it forms is you and I talk about how fucked up, our past was, not necessarily us, but all the bad things that happened to me. And then behavior continues, right? And you should understand, Ruth, because I told you about all my trauma and all my pain. And then the toxicity is formed.
Okay. As Ruth, okay, I have formed several trauma bonds. I have formed them like myself. I did that. But there are also times and cases, like even very recently on my journey, where I've allowed them to be formed with me, right? And what does it look like when you realize, right, it's a trauma bond? What the fuck it looks like, let me tell you real quick, is when you're sitting here and you want to talk about yourself, right? You want to talk about regular shit, how the day went, everything is going. And then this person cannot talk about anything else except what is going wrong with their life, what is going wrong with themselves. Right. They can't talk about anything else except what is going wrong with them. And then you realize and you're like, but I can't even have a normal conversation with this person. And that is what a trauma bond is, my freaking friends.
Okay? So, Jen, I have a question for you. Would you consider trauma bonding being two people that have experienced a massive amount of trauma together and continuing life together? Would you consider that trauma bonding?
Absolutely.
So, one of the number one people that you will, if you ever experience trauma bonding, that you will experience it with is a parental figure like mom and dad.
Yep.
Or siblings, because those people have experienced, especially your childhood trauma, have experienced those traumas alongside you. And having that bond is having a parent who has narcissistic tendencies continue on that trauma and that toxicity, creating a deeper form of trauma bonding.
Right. Okay. Snaps for Britt. Snaps.
Yeah, that's I see narcissist and empath dynamic a lot in trauma bonds. Absolutely. That's golden. Agreed.
Okay. Let's see.
So
how think of some more. How do you break a trauma bond?
Therapy.
Take professional help.
And if you still want, my biggest thing that I found is if you still want that relationship with that person, right? Because not everyone is okay with cutting off family, cutting off your mom, cutting off your dad. We have that hard realization, right? They're there to protect us. They're there to live our lives with us, okay? If you still want that, seeking professional help together so you can build a strong and positive relationship together. Now, very likely one party will not want that because they want to continue that toxicity and that trauma. I just cut people off.
Personally. Straight facts. I learned that from these two beautiful ass Capricorns.
It's not because I refuse to.
Because what happens, right, is that no matter how much you yourself puts in the work, right, you're realizing this is a trauma bond. You're realizing that things ain't okay, right? No matter how much you realize that, you have the power to break it because you have the power to walk away. There's no fixing that person. There's no fixing that person and their mental issues and what they have going on.
Trauma bond is you're trying to fix and you can't fix when you're broken. You can't help anybody till you help yourself.
Right.
That's why I said toxicity, and I didn't explain it well, but it's like you're trying to give advice based on all of this trauma. And it's absolutely 100% accurate. Britt said it is a sibling, what you consider brother, mother, whoever raised you or was in that traumatic experience. The third to that is a spouse. That would be the other one. And then we just, because that's all we know, that starts. There's a thing in my world called the moment of impact. As a trauma specialist, you have to go to the moment of impact, which means you have to go. I knew Britt was going to jump you have to go to the moment it happened. And a lot of time, the moment the trauma happened is not what people think that it is. the moment of impact of reality in general, where your childhood psychosis, which that like that moment of like, you know, living in your own reality, you know, as you grow and then you get out of it. One of the things that I really like and like really hang on. I am not doing this right now. I've got a mom here and I'm like, nope, sorry. Lights flickered, action, apology.
It's okay. If it needs to be said, though, you can totally do it. You will never see me get in the way of spirit, so.
I know, but I'm like.
Ashley, inner child healing, yes.
Oh. Where was I, Bruce? Give me a point.
Don't remember.
Sorry, you know how it goes. I'm like.
Yeah, because
I saw you look to the side and I'm like, oh shit.
Even with all this, right? So like this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Even with all this and I have all these questions and stuff, a lot of this shit is from my own personal experience and my own, like, you know what I mean? And a lot of it is fucking channeled right now. I'm not even here, so I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. What's the difference between crazy spiritual person and crazy spiritual psychosis person? Psychosis person is not aware.
Yeah.
That's the theme. Okay.
I saw from my peripheral vision and it threw me the fuck off. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's totally okay. God therapy acknowledges trauma bond, which led to my own inner child healing. I completely, and I'm not even gonna lie. I don't even talk to my therapist about my childhood stuff. I literally asked her the other day and I was like, am I supposed to talk about my childhood stuff with you? Or like, she was like, I mean, if you want to. And I was like, I mean, I'm kind of doing that by myself, but like, if I feel the need to, I will.
Got it. Sorry.
Okay. And then I was like, cool. When it comes to me and my own childhood and my parents, right? Because it's exactly true. Your trauma bonds, those are one of the people that you form one with. And I formed one with my mother. I formed one with my father. And I literally, like, I'm not a bitch or anything, but I just completely cut that shit off when I got older. When I got old enough, I just cut that shit off. And so there's no necessity for me to really prolong conversations or have crazy, like a crazy connection or anything like that because of what I experienced from when I was younger.
Yeah. That makes sense. And the rest of that was the moment of impact, that moment where the reality hits, and it's different for everybody. But all I was going to say, just to conclude that, is you have to go back to the moment where the reality was shattered, that moment of impact, because there's a moment where your behavior, and it usually by the age of 5, where your behavior starts to form of who you are by the age of 5. And a lot of people don't know that. Isn't that scary?
Yes, that is scary. And I think you were one of the first people to tell me that. And since then, the way that I have approached my relationship with my daughter has been entirely different.
Ooh, I like that.
Becca says, my girlfriend and I helped each other through some breakups from our last relationship. Is that a trauma bond?
Not necessarily. It depends on, I like what Britt said about seeking help together, finding professional help together, and understanding that true healing, it's a very difficult situation for two people in trauma, because usually that, again, I spiral, because that denotes codependency, right? So then we have codependent relationships, which codependency, I'm not going to get into that. Forget that.
That's a very long-winded talk.
I'll just spiral. So not necessarily, but understanding that you can help each other, but seeking outside help either together or separately is extremely recommended in that, because you can have awareness, and and it also depends on where you're at. I want to make something clear that a trauma bond isn't just necessarily telling your story. It's living in the trauma and continuing on with the trauma. So it's not like, I don't know Ruth's story, or she doesn't know most of mine, but we talk about it. I don't think we've ever talked about it fucking again.
One and done. It's like, cool. Wow. Sorry you went through that. But to continuously relive that
You know
trauma.
my mother abused me. I'm trying to give examples to
Yeah.
you know that my mother used to say that to me. And then my father, my father. And there's another example of the trauma of the bond.
Okay. Nice. I love that. There was another,
I do. So,
how do you heal if you can't remember? I get that question a lot.
What?
How do you heal if you can't remember?
You can't remember your trauma?
Right. If you can't remember bits and pieces of your childhood, if you can't remember where the trauma originated, the point of impact, let's say.
If dissociative behavior, and we're getting into other things.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on if you can't remember. It's tricky because a lot of some therapists, I'm going to be careful here. Some therapists will try to create or try to take you in to create trauma. We've heard about it. It was a big thing in the early 2000s. I remember talking about it, of trying to take you back there. So just because I can't remember doesn't necessarily mean that it was traumatic. How do you know it was traumatic? How do you know there was trauma? And I'm not saying.
Okay. So would that be, right? So if the remembering, right? It's not necessarily you can't remember. It's more of a suppression. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So for all of those, for everyone who's like, well, I know my childhood was crap, right? And I know that there was trauma, but I can't remember. It is because there's something that is actively, like your mind is actively blocking you and suppressing that.
I have unpopular belief. I'm just going to go there. I've been trying to
do it. Let's do it.
And I think that you need to be really aware to try to unpack things. And it what the diagnosis is now, where you're at now, but it can be dangerous to constantly be digging out those memories and that trauma. You obviously are aware. Let's move forward. Do you know what I mean? If that's the case, I'm aware that there was trauma. What is it? It's not, again, I know this sounds weird, but it goes back to taking ibuprofen for a broken leg. Like, my leg's broke, bitch.
And I understand, because there's like, with borderline personality disorder, for example, when most people form it, huh?
I said, not the DIDs, it's dissociative. Yeah. We all changed. We changed it as psychologists because we couldn't come together. So DIDs, yes, I'm with you.
Not all bags need to be unpacked. Yes, Michi.
Most people, when they have this disorder, they develop it at a young age when trauma has happened, and they really pack that trauma down. And sometimes it's okay, like Jen said, to not rehash that. You know that trauma is there, and when you force yourself
at times to do that, absolutely detrimental, because you can't remember it, but you're stuck on the trauma. And the circle that people get into is like, I can't remember it, so I can't heal. No, you were traumatized. We need to start here. Why unpack that? You know.
Okay, so instead of going for why am I traumatized, let's start with I am traumatized. I know I'm traumatized. Let's fix that. Let's work on that.
Yes, because like Earthbound, another name, it becomes obsessive. It really does. You just obsess on this trauma that you're not remembering. And so you're focused on this trauma that you know is there, but you're not remembering.
Trauma!
Instead of moving forward and healing as you are right now.
Okay. So can that cause psychosis? Being stuck in that loop of like, why? Why do I have this? Like, where does this come from? Where does this stem from?
There would have to be other things compacted on that for that to
okay, cool.
Myself, I don't think can stand. It would have to be that on top of other trauma.
Okay, understood.
Or, mental disorder, addiction, all the other things we mentioned.
Nice. Okay, I love that. I love that. All right, let me get to these comments.
My OCD kicks in. It's a cycle.
There was one. Okay, first of all, TikTok, stop playing with me. Thank you.
The only thing I would say about that, if I feel like you continue to have dissociative fill in the blank, because there's many dissociative disorders. If I feel like you currently have that, that's a different story. So again, it's the gray areas.
Okay, the gray areas, they matter.
Got to break that down. We got to get into that. That's my only little caveat to what I said.
Okay. So would you say if doing shadow work, right, is it best not to dig up what you don't remember?
See, first of all, shadow work is, how can I say this without sounding like an asshole? Shadow work, it comes in a million different forms. It's not always therapy. It's not always healing from your traumas. Okay. Shadow work can be a million different things. Shadow work can be being self-aware. Shadow work can be having therapy. Shadow work can be self-love. It can be tons of different things.
Shadow work is subjective to the person and what it is that you need to move forward on your spiritual journey.
Some people's shadow work is not seeking therapy. Let's just make that abundantly clear.
Yes.
Especially with TikTok and social media, they hear shadow work and they're like, oh my God, therapy. No. Let's not put shadow work in this little tiny box.
Right. Yes. Molly said, also, I just want to give a shout out, everyone in here. Thank you so much for joining in this conversation. We appreciate you so much. Make sure y'all follow everybody in here. Everyone is a wonderful motherfucking person. And I just love y'all every single day, all of my life. Anyway, next. How would you help?
Before we move on, I want to hear Jen's
the shadow work thing? Okay, go ahead.
I sure do.
What, the shadow work?
Yep.
What about it?
The question that they asked, I'm gonna have to scroll back up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There's a bunch of people in her room right now.
Well, damn.
Always.
Did I miss it?
No. Do you want me to go back to it? Because I totally got it.
I'm trying to.
Fumes here.
Would you say if doing shadow work, it's best not to dig up what you don't remember?
There we go.
Yeah. It's still applicable to me. It's still applicable. What I say still stands. Like, unless, caveat is, unless you have some sort of disorder. That's the only caveat to that. But they're not. Yeah. That's my answer.
Okay. And Molly asked, she said, how would you help someone with PTSD from death and losing someone traumatically?
Where is Molly? I'm at the point where I have to see it because I'm twice. How would you help someone with PTSD from somebody passing and someone losing someone traumatically?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would you help them? PTSD is tricky. That's completely different. How would you help somebody through, like,
I think
versus losing someone traumatically? Okay.
It's definitely a case-by-case basis because there isn't just PTSD.
I know my mind is like, yeah.
There's different levels of PTSD. So some people just have, post-traumatic stress. Like this one situation caused them to have PTSD on this. Then there's other people that have been through so much fucking trauma that they have severe PTSD, where they literally stop in their tracks, disassociate from reality, and they have a vivid memory of a traumatic situation. So it honestly depends on the situation.
On the person. Okay, just like the psychosis, right? How there's different versions of psychosis. What denotes it and makes it spiritual psychosis?
Say that again, Ruth.
What makes psychosis spiritual psychosis? What makes it a spiritual? What puts that label of spiritual psychosis and not regular psychosis?
I feel like psychosis manifests in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So if we choose the spiritual psychosis, the psychosis still stands. It's just that's how you choose. That's your fake.
That's how it. Okay, that's how it kind of just. That's your fairy tale land. That's where it lies.
Fairy tale land, as opposed to fairy tale you may have created, and not spirituality. But the principle still stands. You just chose spiritual psychosis. You just chose to bubble. Why do people do that more common than anything else? Because I can make up whatever the fuck I want, right? I see aliens. I just time traveled yesterday. I went to
I love this answer so much.
Let me preface this with, I absolutely want to say, well, your belief system, this doesn't have anything to do with that. I respect people's belief system. And I want, I hope for that mutual respect in that. So I just needed to put that out there. But what I have seen with whatever you believe in, I'm going to say it.
Say it.
Where's the evidence? Where is the evidence?
Okay.
Where is the explanation to that? Because, if you have this experience, even some of the craziest, for example, Molly, some of the most craziest vivid images that I had, back in the day, like a year ago, she gives me a read and she brought with what it meant into it. There is evidence of that being a spiritual experience for me, and validating that and validating what I thought and saw, right? Versus I saw 14 aliens yesterday, and that's where you stay without the evidence.
Where's the evidence? Okay.
Yeah, without that.
I understand that.
I want Jen to help me answer this question from Molly. I don't want her to think that we ignored it. So going back to PTSD, so she, regarding death, has she's afraid of people dying. So from a psychological standpoint, how would that be treated? How would they go about getting the help that they need with that?
Ooh,
or what does treatment for that look like?
It's one of the most powerful questions in all things, because again, my mind is racing. One of the most powerful questions is why. Is having, instead of just sitting with the fear, just like anything else, you're exploring the fear, putting it out on the table. Let's take that fear. Let's be vulnerable in this safe place. I've already scouted my psychologist, therapist, whatever, in this safe place, and let's talk about it. There is a reason, going back to the point of impact, there is a moment where we saw passing. There is a moment where it became scary. So you have to go back to the moment of impact of how we did that. There can be everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden, bam, somebody passes that you did not see coming.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the moment of impact, and then discussing, and then going from there. But we put the fear on the table and we start digging in. Again, you ask the right questions, the person will find the answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brandy said, since I avoid and isolate, does that mean I'm in psychosis by choice?
Well, you asked if you were, and the answer is no. So let's start there. If you're in psychosis, if you're asking the question, it's more of like a learned behavior and a coping mechanism to withdraw. Because I used to do that all the time, to withdraw, hermit, and you're breaching on the I don't want to see anybody see me hurt, which is definitely not psychosis. I don't want to see. That's where I'm assuming that probably comes from, because I know Brandy, and I don't want anybody to see, and I have to present myself in a certain way, to be seen, and that's a whole different another thing. So no, you're not living in your. Trust me, when you withdrew, I'm sure that it was probably hell. You were not building some fantasy land over here, which is what
right. And that's the psychosis part. The psychosis part would have been you building this fantasy land and saying, I'm not hermiting. I'm not hurting at all.
Yes.
I'm not, I'm perfectly fine. That is where that stems from.
You are not okay.
Yes.
Can't be
Elise said, do you think that some people have less tolerance for trauma?
Well, yeah. Do some people have less tolerance for trauma? Like somebody else's trauma vibes?
It could be both. It could be someone else's trauma, but also your own.
Oh, can you be in trauma and not? Either way, the answer is yes.
Okay, perfect.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. You're filled with so much emotion, you can't even put a name to it. Fear, pain, anguish. And I do want to say this. Every single emotion, and I'm sick of this not being normalized, is valid. This is
Amen.
Like for me, anger, betrayal, hate, frustration, which by the way, hate just means you strongly dislike somebody. Go get your Webster's dictionary and come back. Hate means that because I don't hate them. I strongly don't like them. That's literally the definition of the word. So hate, whatever it may be, jealousy, envy, and all of that, the emotion, we are humans having a human experience. The emotion is not the issue. Now, what you do with it is. But to answer her question, like, you don't know you may not be able to put a label on it, but if those overwhelming emotions that you have are real, you know when you're hurt. Sometimes it gets so bad where it's just I've had that moment when I almost decided not to be here because it's just crippling pain. I don't even know if I used the word trauma, and I was a psychologist at the time. It's just pain, and nobody, there isn't anybody, whether you have a degree or don't have a degree, can bypass that.
Yes. So Ashley, she said, do y'all use birth charts for understanding the things that we go through? It's very interesting how it connects. And I'm going to take the lead on that question real quick. I do and I don't. See, the thing about this whole birth charts, astrology, I mean, anything and everything, right? The most important thing that I've learned for myself is what the hell do I want to be? What do I want to do? And not basing that off of a birth chart, right? That can help me connect pieces, sure. But am I going to live off of that birth chart? Am I going to live exactly by everything it says? Absolutely not. So for me, astrology is not that important to me. The guides, everything outside of myself is not as important to me as myself and my own experience, period.
So, do I use birth charts from a psychological standpoint? Client-wise, no. Because I feel like using birth chart, astrology, numerology, that's all a belief system. And I would never put that on a client, just like I would never push my practitioner, like me practicing or my Satanism aspect on a client.
Right.
Now, let me say, when it comes to like having friends or meeting new people, would I like to know their birth chart? Yeah, sure would.
Why? I mean, we want to know the rising, the moon, and the sun. We want to know what's in Mercury, what's in Venus. Don't get us wrong. But does that dictate who you are to me? No. You dictate who you are to me.
Gravities of what a triple Capricorn with no water should be.
Right.
Here's the thing.
I mean, Britt knows.
I'm an
yes, okay. Molly. Yes.
I'm gonna say that, and like I'm a dick. And as a double Cap and a Sag, there's certain people that have certain attributes that I just avoid entirely. I'm just being straight up.
Right. So like, for example, I'll go with Ruthie. Hi, my own like fucking experience, right? When I first started coming on here, and I was like, I don't like Aquariuses. No. And Jen was like, bitch, you can't be saying that shit. You can't be doing that. But I learned because I based all of my experiences of Aquariuses with one Aquarius. Yeah. One. And that was unfair of me to be able to be like, oh, I just don't like Aquariuses. it's really more than that. I promise. I just had a really bad experience. I'm cool with Aquariuses. Y'all cool people.
All the Aquariuses in the chat are hiding right now.
I know. I'm like, I'm sorry. I love y'all. But that's how I had to make that mistake in order to learn. Right. I had to make that in order to learn and be like, oh, like this is not okay. And that's not okay to do. At least I can't. Yeah, you can blame the ex for sure. Don't talk about you can talk about Libra men. They just
I could not. I did the same thing, Ruth. I'm gonna call myself out. It's just a lesson that I had already learned. But yeah, I said never be friends with an Aquarius. I fucking won't, because I had multiple, not just one, multiple experiences. I will never be friends with an Aquarius, and I feel very confident I will know Lauren for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Reverse does that shit, right? Like, we have somebody.
Yes.
Wigs.
Yes. And see, the thing is too, like before I started my spiritual journey, I really wasn't aware of I really wasn't aware of astrology or placements or anything like that, right? I was never really aware of that. And then once I kind of got into the world, I was like, oh, this all makes sense for that person. It all makes sense. See, and that's where the problem lies, right? And the problem lies in defining people for their sign and not who the fuck they are.
Plus you are more, I mean, Lauren and I have been getting into astrology, and it's been really mind-blowing. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. It's been really mind-blowing to see, and literally the book is called You Are More Than Your Sun Sign. I think that there's a point of, you have to educate yourself if you're going to talk about astrology, right? Just like the notion or idea that, the notion or the idea, first off, that we don't all have abilities, not gifts, abilities, or we all don't have the ability to be in touch is insane, right? We have to work on those abilities. You can't go into a hospital and say, I want to be a nurse or a doctor, and start cutting on people, bro. Like, you have to be trained. So I think there's a lot of ignorance, which I had. I'll call myself out. Oh, you're an Aquarius? There's numerology. There is housing. I'm learning. I'm not, but I'm learning. And I will have an educated conversation about astrology all day from somebody and learn. I'm here to learn. Like, I want to learn.
Ready? Are you ready for my question? Boom. Yeah. So, right, we're always talking about constantly learning, and we're always talking about really embracing that, right? Let's tie that shit into psychosis. Would you consider someone who is in psychosis someone who is just like, no, I don't need to learn anymore?
Yes.
Bitch. That's the answer.
Bitch.
Did you listen these last 2 hours?
100%. Like, 100%. Yes. You created a fake world. What is there?
But see, boom, for all my people who are like, can I get an example of what that looks like? There's one example. There's another example outside of toxic positivity, is someone who is insistent that they don't need to learn anymore. They've learned all that there is to learn. Versus other people who are like, we're always learning. We're constantly evolving. This is a never-ending fucking train.
I exhaust myself with this shit.
Molly, if you want to hop on, you totally can, girl.
So, and I want to make it very clear that so I don't want anyone to take this out of context. Just because someone says, hey, I don't want to learn, doesn't mean they're automatically in spiritual psychosis, okay? Right. There's people that are just, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jen and Ruthie, because, again, spirituality is still kind of new with it. I feel like meeting someone that says, hey, I know everything, I don't want to learn anything about it, I know it all, is also very egotistical. So, I mean,
how would you discern egotistical with psychosis? How would you discern the two, egotistical versus psychosis?
You'd have to look at surrounding. I mean, ego can come. It's interesting to me because with psychosis, what I have seen more common than not is more of like the toxic positivity and like hiding behind this delusion of humble, more common than not. But you don't think that an ego is what? It's inflated or it's I'm right?
Right.
It's like, no, we are enough in psychosis. Like, I am enough. So you're living again, it goes back to that delusional state. So
Okay.
state where
Nothing fell. Everything's fine.
I didn't hear nothing. What happened? Oh,
there's but the one part of ego you're talking about, the inflated one, usually is just I call it the big truck syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Usually people with big egos have very, very, very massive amounts of insecurity. I call it the truck syndrome. Little meow meow meow, big truck vibes. That's
okay.
Where the
I'm
big,
putting Molly up here.
yeah, the humble thing.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Molly.
How's it going?
It's going, girl.
I don't even know how to turn this on. There we
There's
go.
a button somewhere. I'm
Hi,
not
guys.
Hi, my love.
I just thought I'd join in on this because I feel like this is a really good topics that you guys are talking about.
We're trying. I'm trying.
I screen like it's only the three of them. It's weird. Like I can't even see her. I can see her on here, but like she's in the comments stopped like an hour ago.
Wow. Jen.
You've been struggling that long, girl? You didn't say it?
Jen is struggling.
Technically fine. Great. And you're great.
Okay.
Oh.
See, that's just psychosis. I mean, see, but I feel like it's really, really important, right? For people to, and it's not for y'all to go out and diagnose anyone. It's not for anything like that, but it's to literally use your discernment and say, hey, I probably shouldn't be around this person. And it's not for you to go and tell anybody else, hey, you're in psychosis, because it don't work like that.
Or for you to go tell everyone else that this person is psychosis, because one, you don't have to agree to come up with that, okay? And two, mind your business.
Right.
Look out for you and then just mind your business.
I think a lot of people like go through psychosis in early stages of their spirituality because they don't know exactly what's going on. So it's good for people to actually like have a support system when they're going through spiritual awakening so they know what's going on. Because a lot of like I remember when I was waking up, I thought I was freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the difference, right, with the spiritual awakening and the psychosis is the fact that you think you're crazy is what makes you not crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because with psychosis, there is a detachment of reality. We got to get back to the principles. I always like to do factually based. The definition of detachment from reality. So if you have that, then you're aware of how you're aware. There's an awareness of it. Hence,
and that goes down to like I feel as if like we have to look at the root chakra. We have to look at the chakra systems because if like we are opening up our third eye, we're opening up our crown because that's usually how you go through a spiritual awakening. Like you have to look at your main three chakras on the bottom.
Yeah, root being the main. I don't know nearly as much.
You did it. You're doing great, Jen. You said root. You were totally right.
Yeah, you're right.
It took me a minute. I was like, who the fuck is this? Like the root, yeah. The root, I think I was just gonna say is the main. I'm not nearly as knowledgeable as Molly. I do have to take off pretty quick, but Molly, while I have you, you are a big integral part of what gave me the push to do the damn thing. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Of course. I'm glad that you're doing the damn thing.
Yeah, it's totally fine. We definitely talked on here for like 2 fucking hours. So everybody in the chat, y'all let me know. Did we answer your questions? Do you feel like you have more knowledge on this subject? Do you feel confident in being able to go out there and really discern discern what this shit is, what is safe for you and what's best for you versus like what the fuck is going on out there. As long as y'all feel better about it, I'm good. I grew up Pentecostal. Me too.
I think that Jen just needed that push, and when she got that push, she went far.
That was Jen for me, so yeah.
Right, and that's how it should work. See, that's how it should work. That's gonna make me cry. Hello, leaking mouth. Pisces.
Yes.
Molly, I love you, but fuck Pisces season.
Well, I think the point is in the spirituality is like we need to start building each other up and pushing people to understand that it's within them. It doesn't have to come from outside. It can come from within them, and you just give them keys to unlock certain things within themselves. And that's the best thing ever.
And it doesn't matter, Jen, if you think you didn't save people. Because there's a whole lot of fucking people out there who think you did. Me included.
Okay, like 70% of the reason why I'm here and I have the business that I have is because of fucking Jen and a read that I had with her. So, okay, I bid adieu. Like, seriously, I had a read with her and my whole life, well, first of all, again, psychology, she made me realize my own bullshit and I just ran with it. And it's fucking amazing. So, yeah.
It's like wildfire. It really is. It's like you spark one person and then they spark one person and they spark another person. Yep. It's all about the spark and finding and giving them the keys to unlock it so they can unlock other people's sparks. And it just keeps going on and on and on and on.
Bitch, you a spark. Yes.
So is I don't think there's a person on here that isn't.
Yes.
The vision Molly gave me, what I always say, so the vision the download I got, and I was like, is this fucking real? Was like King Arthur pulling the fucking sword out. And I saw that, and she literally said, pull the sword out, bitch. Like, you're King Arthur, pull it out. And this isn't egotistical or whatever. It was just an image my guides gave me. And she's like, and I knew this at this point, but she's like, Archangel, bitch. Okay. Because again, the confirmation and the evidence, right?
Right.
How specific? That's what I was referring to with her, was Molly. How specific can you get? I was already woke. I was just what
I've like learned about it is like you are a vessel for spirit to talk through, and you validate through spirit. You have to let them lead. You have to let go of your ego, and you have to literally let them speak through you. And that's why like I've taken a step back, is because I've been doing all this healing, but I'm ready to come back because I feel as if I've went through so many ego deaths in the past 4 months that I'm ready, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I cannot wait. Guys, I'm going to jump off here, but if you are not following everyone, but if you're not following Molly, then you can just follow me. No, I'm just kidding.
And here we go.
The drama.
But I just think it was a beautiful, Molly. I'm so glad you came up, specifically about the wildfire. And that was beautiful because she gave me the push and I gave Ruth the push. That's how it works. And Ruth
really does.
And I think that's beautiful. But I'm going to hop off of here, guys. I'm exhausted.
Love you. Go get some rest, babes.
All the day. But I love you guys. Thank you guys for the questions, the conversation. I love you guys. I would love to do something again, maybe with another topic, maybe do it once a month, talk about that offline, and kind of go through whatever, because I think this is much needed in the community. This is to have this conversation.
I would love to be a part of it. Like I like these kind of things.
I got you.
I like adding perspectives. I think it's really awesome, like, to have a lot of perspectives so people can see different things.
What I am trying to do in this community is this, and there's a lot of things. There's a lot of fucking reads I've gotten from Jen. It's like, what the fuck do you want to do? What is it? Right? And this is it. My sole purpose is bringing education to our community, but it's also bringing unconditional love. It's in bringing in inclusivity. It's
And
bringing in
acceptance.
an open space where we can all fucking talk, and we don't have to go beating down the fucking batches to disagree with someone, because we can agree to disagree and keep it fucking pushing. So I am looking for a lot more people to have these conversations with, to have duels with, to speak with, because I don't have a big platform or anything like that. It's not really about the big platform, but I want to help uplift other people, and I want to help uplift us in our community, and I want this app to stop being a fucking toxic piece of shit and allow us to really get into a space that is not toxic, that is not harmful, and that is open.
Exactly. And I think that comes with acceptance too, like accepting everybody for who they are, even if they're kind of shitty, you know, accepting them. Like, that's just them, and just accepting
It's
that.
okay if you're shitty. I was shitty too. Sometimes I'm still shitty.
Facts.
That's what Archangel Michael always says. You just have to accept them. Expectations are horrible. Accept them for who they are. Like, that's exactly
Yes.
what I hear 24/7, 7 days a week.
So yes, I love you all. Thank you all for coming up here and having this discussion with me. I really, really appreciate you. And yes, we'll totally get together again and see what we can do. I love you. When the mood facts. When the mood takes me, that's it. It's not me no more. That damn Gemini moon, it just comes out. We over. It's done. We riding.
Yeah.
I love you so, so much. Everyone have a beautiful, beautiful night, okay?
Thank you. Love you guys.
Bye,
Love
guys.
you. Bye, everyone.
I don't know how to exit out.
I'm just turning it off. It's fine.